This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. In this video, we'll be making a sweet pea wreath cake design. It's broken down into steps so you can skip ahead, rewind, and rewatch as desired. We're going to make 3 colors for this cake, and we're going to start with some light green. We're going to use the following liquid gel colors: royal blue, lemon yellow, violet, and neon bright pink, along with our American style buttercream. And I've got quite a bit in my bowl because I'm going to make this green kind of a light shade, and I'm going to use it to cover the background of my cake. I don't want it to be too dark, but I want to know it's green, and I'm going to go with kind of more yellow in there than blue because I want it to have a nice kind of spring vibe, and I'm just going to mute it a tiny touch with a little bit of purple. So think purple mix of red and blue. It's adding a little bit of red there, just a tiny kind of control bit to just mute things a tiny touch. We'll give it a mix around, see what it looks like, and see if we like it. And here we have our color. I added just 2 more specks of that purple just to give myself a nice kind of icy shade of spring green. Our next color is going to be a darker shade of green, and we don't need as much for this one, but I'm going to use drops because I want it to be more intense. I want this green to really read on top of the first one we made. So we want it to have a lot more color in it and be a more intense hue. So I'm just going to start out with some drops of each. Again, a little more yellow than blue. I'm going to give myself just a larger speck of that purple. Just a couple of those in there. So same kind of idea, like we're making a color and we're just adding a little bit of something that's on the opposite side of the color wheel just to mute things a little bit. And here we have our final blended color. I added just a little bit more yellow just to make that balance in my green a little more towards the yellow than the blue, and a tiny touch more of that purple just to give it that slight muted vibe. It kind of keeps it from being that kind of primary feeling, very elementary school kind of leaf green, to something that's just a little more subtle and that's going to work with our other color. Next, we're going to make the color for our sweet peas, and we've got some buttercream in our bowl. It doesn't take much because these aren't big flowers. I'm not going to use a ton of them, but I'm going to go ahead and start with drops of my pink and one of my purple because I want a nice intense shade for my flowers. So think a bright pop of color against those greens. And here we have our final color. It's going to continue to deepen and develop, especially the pink in it, and we added a few more drops of pink just to give a nice balance between the 2 colors, the pink and the violet, and make a nice in-between shade that'll continue to deepen, and it's going to give you a nice pop of color on top of those greens with great contrast. We're going to get started on decorating our cake, and we've got some 6-inch rounds that we have leveled off, filled between, and coated with a nice smooth layer of white buttercream. And now we're just going to cover that with the light green that we made. And since it's nice and firm, it's going to be easy to put on a nice thin layer of color. And once you're done with that top, you can go in on the sides, just using our spatula to give it a nice even coating. Once you get a nice coating on the sides with your spatula, I like to go over mine with my bowl scraper just to give it a quick pass. This will help push things into any dips or low spots. And then give it a quick run with my bench scraper just to make things nice and straight. And just use those right angles to our advantage to get nice clean sides. And then we can remove our excess from the top with our offset spatula. And you just want to open it up so you can kind of just see the bottom, and then just gently kind of scrape towards yourself and use your turntable to help you out. Just give it a nice slow spin as you go, and that'll help you knock off those areas really quickly and get a nice clean finish to the top, nice straight sides, and a great transition between the two. For this cake project, we're using 3 bags. We're using disposables. You can use whatever you like. Our first one is our green, which we're using with a coupler, and we'll be using numbers 352, 4, and 2. We've split our purple into 2 bags, and we'll be using tips number 4 and 124K. We're going to use a couple of techniques. Most of them are ones we've already done before. And the first step is lines. We're going to use the number 4 tip for this because we want it to have just a little more weight. And we're going to be working on the top of our cake so we can just lift up and drop down. And I want to make them kind of wavy. And I'm going to overlap them. So we'll do a few layers of wavy lines because I want it to have the look of a kind of interwoven set of vines wrapped in a circle. So it really has the look of an actual wreath. We're also going to make some little curly lines for this, number 2. Still working on the top of our cake so we can lift up and just let those little loops and curls drop into place. And we just want to pick a smaller number so that they're finer than the lines that we're making. We're going to be making leaves with our number 352, and we're going to do some of them long and some of them short. Same setup for both, 45 degrees. The back of our bag is going to be in line with the direction that we're pulling. One of our tips pointing up, and for some of them, we're just going to pull kind of quickly so we get a nice long leaf without a lot of wrinkles or ruffles. And for others, we're just going to do some nice tiny short ones. So think squeezing and pulling away quickly almost immediately. For our flower, we're going to be using our 124K. And the first thing we're going to do is pipe a little support mound. And we're going to hold that bag almost upright and just wiggle it back and forth so the frosting kind of wrinkles out and gives us a little height to work on. We'll also be making some shells in our flower color with a number 4. So think just nice, big buildup, pull down and away for a nice tapered point. And we can use these shells or our mounds to double as buds. The petals, we're going to do 2 types. First, an arc. This one, think about doing it really tight so it's almost a semicircle. And the key here is we're going to be going really slowly so that we get a nice wrinkle to it. And I kind of did half of one there, so it looks a bit more like a fan. We'll be spinning on our nails so that we can keep going. And finally, we'll be making some upright petals. For this one, we're going to be holding the bag kind of at 6 o'clock and 45 degrees, and the tip is just going to be pointing almost straight at our little flower that we're making. That way, when we squeeze and pull out, it's going to ruffle out and give us a nice little ridge. Now that we've talked about our sweet pea, we're going to practice one on our nail. I'm going to start with my bag pretty much at 90 degrees. Just give it a squeeze, wiggle that tip back and forth to make our little support mound. Now we're going to draw our arc petal. We're going to pull it over our mound and we want to go nice and slow. So think about starting that slightly wider end of the opening right at the edge of that mound, letting that petal ruffle and curl over top of it, and just slowly rotating your nail till you get all the way around. Next, we're going to go ahead and pull a little shell right here in the middle. So just line yourself up however is easiest. Start about half an inch in, and just pull a little shell down. That's going to give us a little support there in the middle for our upright petals. We're going to switch back to our bag with our 124K, and we're just going to set ourselves up. Think about piping alongside that shell, and we're going to do 1 petal on the right and 1 petal on the left. Just let that curl and ruffle out. And enclose that little shell. So here we have our finished flower. We're going to go ahead and move it onto a tray we have waiting with a bunch of other ones and let it chill in the refrigerator for a few minutes. We want them to be nice and firm so they're easy to place in our cake. And I went ahead and piped about 10 of these. We're only working on a 6-inch round, so we don't need that many flowers. To get started on decorating, we're going to start by putting down some green. We're going to make a wreath design, but it's really going to have the feel of a wreath of vines. So we just want to pick a starting point and just think about piping a nice wavy line for ourselves that kind of goes around the edge of our cake. So just think about curving in and out, nice kind of gentle motion. You can stop and start anytime you need to, because we're going to do a couple of these overlapping. So take your time, readjust as you need to, and don't worry too much about having things be perfect. Worry about getting some gaps and some nice overlaps. We want some negative space, right? Some of that light green showing through. And just kind of worry about the overall look of things. If I get too in line with stuff, I'll take a moment, take a breath, and start a new one. There we go. And just work nice and slowly. Take your time, stop, look at things. And just make sure you like how things are going and that the overall feel and weight of things are kind of even and making a nice circle for you. So I can kind of go extra line here just to kind of build things up. And maybe want to build out a little more in this area. So just start here, come over here. And it doesn't have to have the same number of lines in every area. So we've got a nice overall circle or wreath happening. It's a little irregular, that's perfect. A change to my number 2 tip on my green, and anywhere I think I need it, I'm just going to go ahead and put in some little curls. So think about doing these in several places, going different directions. If you're worried about knocking into the lines you've got going on underneath, you can always put your cake in the refrigerator and let it chill for 5 to 10 minutes, just enough to allow that buttercream to kind of firm up a tiny bit for you, making yourself a little more confident while you're working. It's never a problem. And great places to go in are anywhere you have any awkward segments, like if you have a blunt end on a line or something doesn't quite look or feel right to you, you can always cover it up with a little curly cue. Like there, I had a little bit of an awkward end where one stem kind of met into another in a way that didn't really make sense. So that was a perfect little place to go in and put a little curl and just cover up that little bit. Think about making them different lengths, curling different directions, even on the same line. Just to give ourselves a little bit more of a full look. I've got my vines ready to go, so I've changed the tip on my bag of green to my 352 so I can put some cute little sepals and leaves in there as I'm working. And I got my first little round of chilled flowers out. I don't want to pull them all out because they're kind of thin and fine and they're going to warm up pretty quickly. So just pull out a couple at a time. I'm going to give myself a little squeeze of green there and just gently slide my first flower off its paper. And just slide it into place. And so these don't all have to go the same direction. Think about kind of curving some in and curving some out. And I'm just going to go in and put those little short leaves that I practiced down at the base. So just a little bit of something tiny there, a little pop of green to kind of finish things off. And as I go, if I want to work in some little buds, I can always use my bag with my 124K and just put in one of those little mounds. So just think about wiggling back and forth a little bit to give yourself just a little ruffle. If you don't have any buttercream left in that bag, you can always use your number 4 tip and do just a tiny shell as well. I like these because it gives us that little bit of ruffle and that idea of leaves unfolding. And I'm just going to work my way around my cake, putting on blossoms and throwing in some of those buds wherever I think it needs it to create a beautiful design. So we've gone around our cake, placed a bunch of blossoms. I ended up using 7, so if you do 8 to 10, that's perfect number for a small cake. And then I put in some little buds anywhere I think it needed a little extra pop of purple. And now I'm going to go back with my 352 and pipe in some of those longer leaves. So anywhere you feel like maybe I need a little more frosting, maybe the design needs a little more weight, or just a little something going on. A lot of times it has pairs of kind of longer leaves that overlap each other a little bit. So think 2 or 3 on top of each other, just kind of going in line with the general flow of the design is a great way to just finish things off and give it that little extra special touch. So if there's a place where maybe I feel I'm too busy and I want to kind of cover something up, or if I don't like something, or I just feel like it needs a little something extra, I'm just going to go in there and put in a little pear. So I feel like it needs a little something coming in this way. And that's a great way just to kind of help finish things off and to make it look nice and polished. So I'm just going to go around and check and make sure I put sepals on everything as I was going and see if I like my design just by stepping back and taking a look at it. We've got these beautiful frilly purple flowers on a nice background of greens. So we've got some great contrasting colors and a beautiful yet simple to make design for springtime. That's all for this lesson on our sweet pea wreath cake design. If you enjoyed this one, try checking out our original flower series video on making sweet peas if you want a more in-depth lesson, or some of our other fun wreath cake designs. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It truly supports our channel and helps us share more in-depth cake decorating lessons. Want to level up your skills? Our yearly membership has certificate programs from beginner and up. Learn more at cakedecorating school.com.